Down the years, we've seen hundreds, thousands of videos and articles telling you how you can stop your slice. In this video, I'm going to share with you some information that you may not have seen. It's going to help you stop getting steep in your downswing, stop you cutting across the ball, and hopefully get rid of that slice. Let's have a look. So yes, it's that time of year again. We have reached the winter. It is pretty much the end of the season. So what better time to get your game in shape? This video is for you slicers, the guys and girls out there that maybe get a little bit steep. The shaft gets a bit steep in the transition of the downswing. We're going to be trying to get that to flatten out a little bit more, give you a little bit more of a chance to get the club path to be a bit more from in to out, and maybe get rid of that slice. Maybe one day hit a draw. Now this information is going to center around your trail shoulder. So for the right-handers out there, the right shoulder, and for you lefties, the left. And we're going to be discussing internal and external rotation. Now if your shoulder was to internally rotate, it will go this way, or the arm will move that way. And if it externally rotates, it will go this way. Now, internal and external rotation of your shoulder may sound a little bit complicated, but I assure you it's not. Now, most slicers will generally internally rotate their trail shoulder at some point through the swing, often in the downswing. This will cause the shaft to steepen. I'll show you that in a little bit. And then they tend to cut across the golf ball. What we're going to be wanting to achieve is to get the shoulder to externally rotate a little bit more, which tends to have a flattening effect on the shaft. Something that tends to encourage internal rotation of the trail shoulder tends to be what the pelvis is doing. And I'm going to make it much easier for you to externally rotate your shoulder, so it's going to be far easier for you to flatten the shaft in the downstroke, again encouraging more of an inside attack angle. So less of the waffle, let's show you what I mean by this pelvic movement. Pelvic tilt is basically a fancy way of saying hinging at your hips, and we all do that to varying degrees at setup depending on what club we're using and our height, etc. So we're going to have this little hinge here at the hips. The interesting thing with this hinge, it actually makes external rotation of the trail shoulder, something that we want, more difficult. And more hinging you have, the more likely it is that your shoulder is going to be internally rotated, something that we don't want because it will generally steepen the downswing and the shaft of the club. We want more external rotation. If I have no hinging at my hips, external rotation of the shoulder is very, very easy. So for you guys and girls out there that are getting steep in your downswing, I want us to take away this pelvic tilt or hinging at your hips in your backswing, because it's going to help you get your trail shoulder more externally rotated, which is going to help you flatten the shaft in the early parts of the downswing, which again could unlock the possibility of hitting a draw. Now it's okay to take away this tilt in the backswing, but of course I'm gaining height. Now, understandably, people are going to be thinking, well, aren't I just going to top the ball, Ryan? Well, of course, that's understandable. If you actually take away this hinge, you do gain height. But there is a movement that we're going to put in as well, which is going to mean that your head will actually drop back down, and that's going to be a hinging at the midpoint of your spine. So if I just demonstrate that now, that movement there, which is lowering my left shoulder in relation to my right shoulder, is something that we're going to put into your swing, because most people that retain the tilt of the pelvis through the golf swing won't actually have this movement. So if I combine those two things, coming out of this tilt at address, but then putting this tilt in, you can now see that that's looking like a fairly good backswing. I can externally rotate my trail arm because I'm not tilted too much at my pelvis. As opposed to this movement, if I retain this tilt, don't put that bend in at the midpoint of my spine, I tend to get myself into a situation where I can feel my arm wanting to go that way as opposed to that way because it's more difficult. Subsequently, if this happens, you can kind of see how that's going to create that over the top look to your golf swing. So that's all fine, well and good, that information, fine, you'll probably understand that. I'm going to show you now how you can actually implement it to get a feeling so that you can actually put that feeling into your golf swing and start working on this throughout the winter months. All you need is a cane or a club even, a club will do, or a stick, any old thing will do. And what I want you to do is just stand completely upright, so no hinging at your pelvis, putting this across your shoulders like so. You don't have to cross your arms like I am, but you can if you want. And all I want you to do is put a bit of a turn in, maybe 90 degrees there or thereabouts. Now, without using your hips or pelvis, I want you to lower that cane down to the ground just by using the midpoint of your spine, as you can see. There. Now, physically, that's not that easy. Often why it's not done. So we're turning around, not using your hips. And just getting a feeling as to what that is like. And then when you swing in the club, this is obviously not a club, but let's pretend that it is. I want you to try and replicate that feel at the top of your backswing. So there's very little tilt here at the hips, lots of tilt or bend at the midpoint of the spine, lowering this left shoulder down. All we need to do then, not to make it sound too easy, is just to have one other feeling when you swing in the club, and you'll be in a much better position at the top of your backswing. So we've got the first drill with the cane. This is going to be the second feeling. This is to get this trail shoulder to externally rotate. Because we've got rid of the pelvic tilt and hinging at the hips, this movement is going to be far easier, but I'm still going to have to give you some ideas as to how you can go about doing that. And this is the simplest way. I believe this is the way that has worked for me within lessons over the years. I want you to feel as though your right elbow, or trail elbow, for you left-handers, I don't want to miss you out, your trail elbow wants to feel as though it's actually underneath your hands at the top of the backswing or underneath the handle of the club, as opposed to being that way, which as you can see steepens the shaft. That's internal shoulder rotation, which is often present in slicers golf swings, this movement. I want you to try and get your hands above your elbow or this trail elbow underneath your hands, which is going to externally rotate that arm and shoulder. So if we can combine those two things, we're going to end up with a nice top of backswing position, something that's going to enable you to hit a little bit more from the inside, make that a little bit easier. So we're coming out of this hinge or tilt that we've got at setup. We're bending at the midpoint of the spine to lower the left shoulder. We're getting the hands above your trail elbow. We're hitting that really good top of backswing position. So hopefully all of that makes sense. Let me know in the comments box below if you've tried this information out. Has it helped you achieve a better backswing position? And has it allowed you to hit a little bit more from the inside? If you'd like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. More tips coming soon.